Borderlands is one of the most chaotic franchises ever.
Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
With 4 games and a movie on the way, there's a lot to talk about. One of the most iconic parts of this series is the laundry list of memorable villains.
Don't forget to like, follow, and obey.
And as the saying goes, there ain't no rest for the wicked. So today we're gonna break down who the most ruthless and vile villains are,
Whose soul is this?
and which antagonists aren't all that bad. Hey guys, I'm Brad with One Up Binge, and this is Borderlands Villains, Evil to Most Evil. We're starting with the best of the worst and moving down until we hit the most evil villain in the franchise. Starting off with Mr. Torgue, who's just a villain by necessity. He's the main antagonist of Mr. Torgue's Campaign of Carnage. Torgue, like the rest of the Flexingtons, had facial hair and large pecs from a young age, which made him shy around girls and was made fun of for being different. Since he was a small boy, he wanted to hone the power of explosions, since his parents died in a mine explosion.
How the fuck am I supposed to cook this shit?
He's the founder of the Torgue Corporation, but doesn't own it anymore since he sold the rights. However, he is the best of the worst because he's not really evil. He's just having fun. He even views the second set of Vault Hunters as his only true friends. His worst act is having Handsome Jack's Vault Hunters blow up a laser weapon, since he finds laser weapons as weak-willed. But that didn't do much damage to anyone, except the weapon itself. From Torgue to Atlas, General Knox falls into our next spot. General Knox was the first general of the Crimson Lance, a special combat unit working under Atlas. Knox spent most of his young life as a soldier of the Crimson Lance, and he yearned for a life of meaningful combat and a noble death. However, he felt like the Crimson Lance's system was damn nepotism, because his commanding officer was a 5-year-old. He's not all that bad. He was okay with Athena leaving Pandora after she found her sister. He even got mad when the encampment she was in was burned down by the Crimson Lance. As time went on, he lost his hopes to legitimize Atlas and was preparing to commit suicide when the Vault Hunters came around. Even though he puts up a hard facade, he cares for his soldiers and just wants death.
Kill all of them.
Pirate Queen of Wormwater, Captain Scarlet, rides into our next spot. Scarlet is a pirate who went on a search for Captain Blade's treasure alongside her friend Sandman. However, she literally stabbed him in the back with her sword so she could keep the treasure. She found a majority of the compass pieces needed, and when the Vault Hunters come around, she has them find the last one. She then betrays the Vault Hunters and goes to the secret location to obtain the treasure rather than splitting it. She summoned the Leviathan, which swallows both her and the Vault Hunters. She concedes and gives the treasure to the Vault Hunters when they beat her. She may be a backstabbing pirate, but she has a code, and when she loses, she gives up the treasure.
Captain Scarlet.
Handsome Jack's court jester, Pretty Boy, is next. Pretty Boy was forced by Handsome Jack to be his personal laughingstock because Jack found his face to be funny. After Jack's death and the lockdown of the Handsome Jackpot Casino, Pretty Boy tried taking control of the VIP Tower. Pretty Boy leads the Vault Hunters into the VIP Tower and kidnaps Timothy, locking him in a laser cage. However, we don't know much more about that because he gets killed by the jackpot suit he was wearing to fight the Vault Hunters. His worst trait is his greed, but the kidnapping is pretty bad too. Next is Wilhelm, Handsome Jack's cyborg enforcer. Wilhelm had a mild case of bone waste when he was young, requiring him to get cybernetic implants to live. These implants led him down a path of addiction to getting cybernetics, even wishing to become a full-fledged robot. Wilhelm became a mercenary and vault hunter who helped Handsome Jack rise to power on Elpis. His kill count reached the population of a small country before he became Handsome Jack's head enforcer. Wilhelm works for money and is addicted to his cybernetics. However, he's killed before we know too much about him, and because of that, we can't rank him lower. Moving on to Handsome Jack's biggest fan, Professor Nakayama. Nakayama was a scientist on Elpis who contributed to the rise of Handsome Jack. Nakayama faked being a geneticist, so he could get close to his idol Jack. Nakayama's obsession with Jack is never given a reason, but he is distraught with his death. He crash lands on a primitive continent and needs to survive, so he experimented on himself and the local creatures. He wants to clone Handsome Jack, but he creates a giant monstrosity instead. He dies by tripping downstairs when he was heading to face the Vault Hunters. He's the most insane villain on this list so far, because he's obsessed over one man. His genetic experiments are what put him lower on this list than others. Heroes. Next is Hyperion magnate Hugo Vasquez. Hugo is the Senior Vice President of Securities Propaganda for Hyperion and the arch-rival of the main character, Reese. To obtain this position, he murdered the previous vice president by pushing him out of an airlock. Once he gained power, he demoted Reese and embezzled money from Hyperion to buy a vault key. He not only lies about his murder and embezzles money, but he blacklists Reese and Vol for ruining his sale, and tries to have Reese sell out Vaughn. Not only is he a murderer and a liar, but he's a scumbag. His kill count might not be high, but the power he has, he can cause more trouble than he's worth.
Checkmate, amigos.
Commandant Steele, the first major villain in the franchise, is next on our list. Steele is the leader of Crimson Lance forces on Pandora, and because of her tattoos, she is a siren, even though she never uses her powers. She works for Atlas and claims all alien technology belongs to the company. She kidnaps Patricia Tannis and forces her to lie to the Vault Hunters, and sends the Crimson Lance to attack Sanctuary. She gets her comeuppance, being killed by the Destroyer when the vault opens. She lands here because she leads the Crimson Lance, a heavy military force that kills hundreds, and she has more power than she realistically should. Moving on to our next villain, Butcher Rose. Rose is the leader of a criminal group called the Devil Riders, and when you first meet her, she helps the Vault Hunters fight them briefly. However, she had lied to the Vault Hunters and was really leading this group. She fatally shoots the sheriff in the chest and steals a stone, an egg for a giant monster. She then summons the Ruiner, a massive beast of destruction, and leaves, letting the Vault Hunters clean up her mess. She doesn't rank lower because she shows mercy. When her Saurian broke its leg, she shot it because its leg would never heal correctly. The powerful deceiver, 5H4DOWTP, known as Shadow Trap, wheels into our next spot. Shadow Trap is a part of Claptrap's subconscious and was locked within his consciousness.
Come, embrace your oblivion.
Shadow Trap tricks the Vault Hunters into helping him by utilizing projections of Dr. Zed, Tannis, and Lilith and leading them to him. Because he was locked up, all he could do was lead the Vault Hunters, leading them to kill Claptrap's denial subroutine and free him. After he's free, he escapes deeper into Claptrap's subconscious and tries to kill the Vault Hunters with bugs, bandits, and viruses. The worst part about Shadow Trap is not his deception or trickery. It's that even though he seemed destroyed multiple times, he's one of the few villains still roaming the world. He may not have as much power as Steel, but he's one of the most cunning villains on this list, surviving his multiple deaths and tricking the Vault Hunters. Next is the Queenpin Valerie. Valerie is August's greedy and ambitious mother who leads a well-established and feared criminal gang. Valerie has no mercy. She shoots down Reese and the crew's ride multiple times with a rocket launcher. She tears off her son's earlobe if he failed his mission, and threatens to kill Athena if she doesn't do as told. Valerie is borderline psychotic. The only solace is that she gets killed by the Traveler before she can do anything else. Next is Aurelia Hammerlock. Aurelia is the heiress to the Hammerlock fortune and the sister of Sir Alistair Hammerlock. Aurelia, like the other Vault Hunters, was responsible for Handsome Jack's rise to power, but her actions don't end there. She takes over the Jacobs Corporation after the Calypsos absorb Montgomery Jacobs. She bribes Archimedes to betray Clay and tries to bribe Clay as well. She tries to bribe the Vault Hunters to leave the planet, but it turns out that this was intended as a ploy. She tries to kill the Vault Hunters, her brother Alistair, and his boyfriend Wainwright. She's greedy, arrogant, and ice cold, and has no morals or mercy. Next on our list is Eleanor, the leader of the Bonded. Eleanor found the corpse of a Lovecraftian monster named Githian, alongside her husband Vincent. Vincent got so wrapped up in finding out about it that the monster's heart absorbed him. Eleanor and Vincent soon create the Renewal Ritual, a ritual that allows Vincent to gain a long line of bodies to possess. However, their plan is ruined, so they try and slay the Vault Hunters. When the Vault Hunters kill her and the heart, the two lovers share one last romantic moment together. She not only tricks people into being possessed, but does so under the radar, so it's unknown how many lives were lost. Continuing down this female villain rabbit hole, Colonel Zarpedon is next. Zarpedon was a commander in the Dahl military and captain of the Drakensberg spaceship who relinquished control to her second in command and joined the dig site. However, when the Dahl Corporation decided to pull out of Elpis, they left Zarpedon and hundreds of Dahl soldiers on the moon. Zarpedon forms and leads the Lost Legion, and invades Helios Station and orders the death of every Hyperion employee on board. Why? Because she was told by an Iridian that the artifact she found should not fall in human hands. She even tries to blow up Elpis to stop anyone from opening the vault on it. Even though she believed she was in the right, she did try to blow up a populated moon and killed hundreds of Hyperion personnel. Her agenda may be righteous in her opinion, but it leads to a massive death count. Interplanetary Ninja Assassin Claptrap is next. Interplanetary Ninja Assassin Claptrap is a reprogrammed version of the original Firestone Claptrap from the beginning of the game. He was programmed by Hyperion to kill the Vault Hunters through poisoning, setting traps, and spreading catty rumors. However, Interplanetary Ninja Assassin Claptrap realized that Claptraps were enslaved and decided to fight against that, forming the Robolution. He's eventually reprogrammed once again, ending this idea. He falls this low because of his hypocrisy. Even though his original plan was not terrible, his forces started to claptrap multiple creatures throughout the land. This includes multiple bandits,
Wait, I'm back? Damn it.
creatures, and even the corpses of Dr. Ned, Commandant Steele, and General Knox. He fights against being a slave by enslaving living beings, which makes him as bad as the corporation he was up against. Speaking of slaves, the notorious zombie maker, Dr. Ned, rises into our next spot. Dr. Ned is the brother of Firestone medic Dr. Zed and the lead healer in Jacob's Cove. While trying to heal the residents of Jacob's Cove, he accidentally creates zombies which eat both of his lab assistants. He then distributed poison amongst the soldiers in Jacob's Cove, and then experimented on the corpses to raise them into a zombie army. Ned then decided to create a cure for the zombie infection with Skag DNA, which only led to the creation of monstrous were-skags. It turns out that he'd been watching group after group try to slay the Horde, but failing at every turn. After the Vault Hunters kill him, the monstrous doctor raises again as undead Dr. Ned and tries to kill them. Ned was able to raise an army of the dead and loved watching every failed attempt to destroy them. He's malicious, especially for someone who's supposed to be a doctor. Colonel Hector is taking the Bronze Medal of Evil. Hector is the leader of New Pandora, an offshoot of Dahl soldiers who were tricked into becoming a mining force through the promise of a planet. Hector and the soldiers were locked inside the mine by Dahl and left for dead.
Time to change the world.
However, they came into contact with the disease that caused mass destruction among the group. Hector took this opportunity to utilize this disease and made a potent gas and a plan to cause mass genocide. Hector besieges the Crimson Lance base of Sanctuary and takes it over, forcing the Vault Hunters to reclaim it. It's revealed that his plan is to turn Pandora into a botanical paradise and kill everyone except himself and his soldiers. He stops the creation of an antidote by infecting Cassius and fuses with the Vault Key to form a giant beast to kill. Hector lands here because his plan is not just genocide, but he plans to infect the whole world with these spores and make slaves. While his insanity may drive from a sort of good ideal, his revenge is against a group of people that didn't cause him the pain.
Your dream dies with me.
The twin destroyers, Troy and Tyrene Calypso, snatch the Silver Medal of Evil.
What is up, my bandit legion?
Troy and Tyrene rank together because they work as a team throughout Borderlands 3. And as separated conjoined twins, it would feel wrong to rank them apart. The twins are the children of the original Vault Hunter, Typhon de Leon. The twins are both sirens and have the ability to leech the life out of any living creature, which steals their powers. The twins were protected by Typhon on the planet Necrotafeo and regaled with stories of the multiple vaults that Typhon explored. However, when Tyrene leeched her mother, Typhon doubled down and made sure they never left the planet, which caused them to thirst for adventure even more. They eventually found their way to Pandora and wished to open up the Great Vault. They started on this journey by broadcasting the slaughters they committed onto the EchoNet. They slowly formed a following that called themselves Children of the Vault and followed the Calypsos like a cult. The twins are maniacs, leeching Lilith and leaving her for dead, leeching multiple vault monsters to grow in power, and killing Maya and then making a mockery out of her death. They kill Montgomery Jacobs and put Aurelia in power, not to mention when they kidnap Tannis when she finds a way to nullify vault monsters and their powers. Troy creates the Anointed, a wave of super soldiers to fight the Vault monsters, much to his sister's chagrin. Though they fail to open up the Great Vault fully, Tyreen fuses with the giant Vault monster in an attempt to kill the Vault Hunters. The twins rank here because their plan would destroy Pandora and Elpis, and also, they felt like they were entitled to it.
Don't forget to like, follow, and obey.
The gold medal goes to Handsome Jack. Jack is by far the most evil character in the franchise, and it's not even a contest. But here are all the reasons why. Handsome Jack is ruthless, strangling an employee to death because the man mentioned his wife. He created the Eye of Helios, a super weapon fired from space that could destroy entire settlements, and intended to use it against bandits and other undesirables. After being cursed by the Iridians with their knowledge, he killed the president of Hyperion and overtook his spot. He destroyed the settlement of New Haven and took military and corporate control of Pandora. Even with all this power, he continued to slay any resistance, personally executing Helena Pierce. He hooked his daughter Angel to an Iridium machine to keep her alive, and charged his vault key. He drills into the core of Pandora to awaken the Warrior, a massive vault monster he would use to cleanse Pandora of all bandits. Jack not only kills Roland, but kidnaps Lilith and forces her to charge the vault key. He built the Handsome Jackpot explicitly to bleed his customers dry and get as much money as possible. After being killed, he lives on, becoming a voice in Reese's head and trying to be put into a new body by him. Eventually, that is wiped from existence and he is killed forever. Handsome Jack is leagues ahead of the rest of the pack when it comes to villainy. He wants to kill all bandits on Pandora and shows no mercy to anyone who comes in his way, leaving a trail of bodies that seems unmatched.
I'm gonna kill them all.
Alright guys, that's the list. Who do you think is the most evil Borderlands villain? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. And if you need a one-up, binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite games. Thanks for watching.